I gave up everything for this. I mean, you know, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Cash is there all day. We share it. Our offices are linked. He turns on the faucet. I hear it. He's there he gets in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't leave till 7 at night. You know, I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment, but I stare at these four walls all day in DC, you know, by myself, divorced from my wife, not divorced, but I mean, separated, divorced. And it's hard. I mean, you know, we love each other and it's hard to be apart.
But you're doing some great work. You're straightening out the FBI, you're moving buildings. There's a lot of change.
I got one more thing.
Then he continues to talk about how tough it is. He says, this is so tough for my family. Play this clip.
Before we get into specifics, what did you think the job was going to be like? What is it like?
You know, the biggest lifestyle change for me has been family-wise. I mean, we already went through this with my time in the Secret Service. But, you know, when the president called and asked if I would take the job, you know, you can't tell your audience for years, go out and do stuff, talk is cheap. And then when the opportunity comes to do stuff, I didn't mean me, you know, I meant you. It's kind of you're a fraud. I mean, you don't sound like a fraud. You are one. So it was a lot. It's been tough on the family. People ask me all the time, you know, do you like it? I say, no, I don't. But the president asked me to do this to like it. You know, nobody likes going into an organization like that and having to change things and make big, bold changes. But, you know, I was at one of our facilities yesterday down in Winchester, and a woman who worked there, very nice, said, you know, I used to watch your show. I miss you. I said, you know, I miss me too. You know, part of you, part of you dies a little bit when you see all this stuff from behind the scenes.
All right, everyone. Dan Bongino, the deputy FBI director, has suddenly quit right before the Epstein files are supposed to drop. We believe the Trump DOJ and FBI will be obstructing a lot of the documents that mention Donald Trump from being released. And Bongino's sudden resignation right before the deadline is incredibly suspicious. After denying all the reports that he would be quitting, Bongino has now admitted he's leaving. And Donald Trump is essentially mocking him right now, saying he thinks Bongino is going back to his show. Let's look at what Bongino just posted. He writes, "I will be leaving my position with the FBI in January. I want to thank President Trump, AG Bondi, and Director Patel for the opportunity to serve with purpose. Most importantly, I want to thank you, my fellow Americans, for the privilege to serve you. God bless America and all those who defend her." But check out the time sequence of this announcement because it's absolutely wild. At 12:55 p.m., Bongino told MSNBC, in great reporting from Carol Leonig and others, when asked for comment on the story saying he was leaving his position in January, Bongino said, "Print whatever you'd like. No one believes you anyway." Then at 5:16 p.m., Bongino posts on X, "I will be leaving my position in January. By the way, I am trying to do my best to gather all the information I can for you and share it with you. Please leave your likes and comments, and I would be grateful if you subscribed. Let's continue." So within hours, Bongino went from angrily denying the story and attacking the reporters to confirming it's true. That's the behavior of someone who got caught, not someone making a planned announcement. And we're hearing from Donald Trump what he had to say about Bongino. Trump says, "Dan did a great job. I think he wants to go back to his show. That's really what his priority is here." As our editor-in-chief Ron Filipkowski writes, Bongino couldn't handle the pressure. Now he runs back to yelling conspiracies he knows aren't true into a microphone for cash to dumb down Neanderthals. And that's exactly what happened here. Bongino took this job, got access to the Epstein files, realized how implicated Trump actually is, and couldn't handle being part of the cover-up while also facing public scrutiny. And by the way, while all of this is happening, we learned that Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice and former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted child sex trafficker, just filed a habeas corpus petition challenging her federal sex trafficking convictions. She's not represented by any attorney, but the reason she's filing this is clear. Now she wants to claim this is why she has to invoke her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination and why she was willing to speak with Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney Todd Blanche, who's now number 2 at the Department of Justice, but won't answer any questions for the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee. She's going to say she has a habeas corpus petition to be released pending, so she can't incriminate herself. Do you see how this cover-up is shaping up right now? It's all coordinated. Maxwell speaks to Trump's lawyer at DOJ, gets moved to a minimum security facility she's not legally allowed to be at, then files a petition so she can refuse to testify to Congress about Trump's involvement with Epstein. Let me remind you that Bongino seemed tormented from the outset. On day one of Bongino's job, great reporting here from Bloomberg, Bongino got his hands on the Epstein files. They were sent to him by the redaction team. Welcome to the FBI, Bongino. The redaction team sent Bongino the files, and you see him receiving them that day in March. We also know from corresponding billing entries that in 1 week alone, when Bongino got there was like $1 million paid in overtime to FBI agents. Over 1,000 FBI agents and DOJ lawyers and employees were assigned to this redaction team working on aggregating the Epstein files back in March. And we know that Donald Trump's name is all over them. Heck, even Susie Wiles, Donald Trump's chief of staff, I was going to say former chief of staff because it seems like a lot more news is about to drop, doesn't it? She told Vanity Fair that Donald Trump's all over the files. But, she said, look, he and Epstein were just playboys. They were much younger and they were just gallivanting around town doing what playboys do. What? That's what you called it, Susie Wiles. Gallivanting around doing what playboys do. But then you remember all these appearances by Bongino on state regime media, which calls itself Fox. He couldn't handle it. He was saying things like, I gave up everything for this. My wife is struggling. This job is so hard. Listen to this clip where Bongino is clearly struggling with what he's gotten himself into. He says, I gave up everything for this. My wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, Cash is there all day. We share offices, they're linked. He turns on the faucet. I hear it. He gets in like 6 in the morning, doesn't leave till 7 at night. I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym, I work out in my apartment, but I stare at these 4 walls all day in DC by myself, divorced from my wife. Not divorced, but separated, divorced, and it's hard. We love each other, and it's hard to be apart. This is a man who's clearly miserable and regretting his decision. Then he continues talking about how tough it is for his family. When asked what he thought the job was going to be like versus what it is actually like, Bongino says, the biggest lifestyle change for me has been family-wise. When the president called and asked if I would take the job, you can't tell your audience for years go out and do stuff. Talk is cheap. And then when the opportunity comes to do stuff, you'd sound like a fraud. You are one. So it was a lot. It's been tough on the family. People ask me all the time, do you like it? I say no, I don't. But I didn't. The president didn't ask me to do this to like it. He talks about visiting one of their facilities, and a woman who worked there said she used to watch his show and misses him. Bongino responded, I miss me too. Part of you dies a little bit when you see all this stuff from behind the scenes. Think about what he's really saying there. Part of you dies when you see the truth about what's in those Epstein files, when you see how deep Trump's involvement goes, when you realize you're being asked to be part of covering it up. That's what's eating at Bongino. Now, what you should know about Dan is that before he got this job as Deputy FBI Director, he was a podcaster, and his main podcast focus was Epstein. He would spread all the Epstein conspiracy theories, saying the FBI is covering it up, the DOJ is covering it up, Epstein didn't kill himself, the FBI needs to release everything immediately. Then he became involved in the actual cover-up. Watch as Maria Bartiromo from State Regime Media asks a very basic question to Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. She asks about whether Epstein committed suicide, and both Patel and Bongino insist he killed himself. Bongino says, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself. This is the same guy who built his entire brand on claiming Epstein was murdered and the government was covering it up. Now that he's seen the actual files, suddenly it's a suicide? Or is he just reading from the script he's been given? We also remember that Deputy Director Dan Bongino had to take a stress day. He took a day off from work after a White House clash with Attorney General Pam Bondi over their handling of the Epstein files, according to sources who spoke to Axios. This was months ago. And if you remember our reporting here on the Midas Touch Network, This is why you need to subscribe to the Midas Touch YouTube channel right now. We're on our way to 6 million subscribers. We've been reporting that this guy was going to leave for months. One of the first things we reported this morning was that he was out. I brought on Lev Parnas, and we said this morning that Bongino's desk is clear and he's already out. We reported that this morning, and we've been saying he's been gone for months and months. The guy couldn't handle it. Here's what Bongino told Hannity about his future plans. He says, "In the past, I was paid for my opinions, and so one day I'll be back in the space where I can get paid for my opinions again." Listen to this clip where Hannity brings up Bongino's past conspiracy theories. Hannity says, "You put a post on X right after this happened and you said there's a massive cover-up because the person that planted those pipe bombs, they don't want you to know who it is because it's either a connected anti-Trump insider or an inside job. You said that long before you were even thought of as Deputy FBI Director." Bongino responds, "That's why I said to you this investigation's just begun. We are pretty comfortable we have our guy. I think as the legal process starts to surface and information and facts start to come out, the public's going to be very comfortable with the investigation. But I don't want to... Listen, I was paid in the past, Sean, for my opinions. That's clear. And one day I'll be back in that space. But that's not what I'm paid for now. I'm paid to be your deputy director. And we base investigations on facts." Translation: I used to get paid to lie and spread conspiracy theories, and I'll go back to doing that soon. But right now, I have to pretend to be a serious law enforcement official, even though I'm actually helping cover up Trump's Epstein connections. Folks, we're just less than 48 hours away from the release of the Epstein files. We know all the efforts by the Trump regime to cover this up. We're going to stay vigilant here on the Midas Touch Network because we know all the obstruction that's about to take place. They're going to say at the DOJ, "Oh, there's ongoing criminal investigations right now in the Southern District of New York into the real bad guys. It ain't Donald who's all over it. We're going to find the real bad guys, so we can't release the documents." Or remember what MAGA Mike Johnson said? He goes, "We can't create new victims," referring to the rich, powerful billionaire men who are all over this list, and Donald Trump as the new victims who need protecting. We've been hearing what Director Patel and Bondi are saying. We will turn over all that we are legally required to turn over. Notice the careful language. Not everything. Not full transparency. Just what they're legally required to turn over, which they'll interpret as narrowly as possible. The reason I mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell earlier is because I want you to think about this timeline. She was willing to speak to Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney turned deputy attorney general at DOJ. She spoke to him in Tallahassee. What happened after Tallahassee? She lied through her teeth because then we got all those emails that Bloomberg unearthed and the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee unearthed. Shout out to Congressman Garcia. And we saw she was intimately involved in mentioning Trump over and over again. What does Trump know? Trump is in the House. Trump was at the house when the girls were there. Remember the emails? She assembled the birthday book that she claimed she didn't know existed. So she speaks to Blanche in Tallahassee, then gets moved from a maximum security facility to a minimum security facility at Camp Bryan, Texas. The whole Trump regime claims they had nothing to do with it, but it just so happened that like the next day, she gets moved to a minimum security facility where she's banned because she's a convicted child sex trafficker. She's not allowed to be there, but they moved her there anyway. And now she's like, I have to plead the Fifth. I can't take a deposition. I can't speak. I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination because I filed a habeas corpus petition. It's all coordinated to prevent her from testifying to Congress about Trump. Just contrast that right now to Special Counsel Jack Smith, who walked into the halls of Congress today and took a deposition. He had his deposition taken today. He wanted to do it publicly, and the MAGA Republicans were too scared to allow it. So just think about it. Who's hiding things and who wants to tell the truth here over and over again? Ghislaine Maxwell, who could implicate Trump, suddenly files petitions and refuses to testify to Democrats while cooperating with Trump's DOJ Dan Bongino, who has access to the files showing Trump's involvement, suddenly quits right before they're supposed to be released. Jack Smith, who prosecuted Trump, wants to testify publicly, but Republicans won't let him. The pattern is clear. Everyone with evidence of Trump's wrongdoing is being silenced, moved to better facilities, or quitting under pressure. Everyone who wants to expose Trump is being blocked, threatened, or ignored. This is a systematic cover-up happening in real time, and Bongino's sudden resignation is just the latest piece. Bongino couldn't handle being part of it. He saw the files. He knows what's in them. He knows Trump is all over them. And he couldn't reconcile being the guy who spent years saying the FBI was covering up Epstein while now actively participating in covering up for Trump. So he's running back to his podcast where he can yell conspiracies he knows aren't true for cash from Neanderthals who will believe anything. We'll keep you posted every step of the way. Big news, Bongino's out, suddenly quitting right before the release of the files. Hit subscribe, help us get to 6 million subscribers, and thank you so much for watching. This is the kind of independent journalism that exposes what the mainstream media won't cover. Support our work, spread the word, and stay vigilant as this cover-up continues to unfold.